Update. So, last we saw, I had designed these mounting brackets right here and was printing them out. Well, right after I left you, as I was printing this guy right here, um, the printer jammed. I had a problem with the printer. It was all my fault. Essentially, what happened is I've got this little heater down here for at night when it gets cold, since it's Arizona, it doesn't get, super cold, but still cold for a lizard. So I set the heater up right here facing towards the printer, and the heater essentially melted the PTFE tube and the filament inside of it, and as the extruder or the motor was pushing the filament in, it essentially just bulged, as you can see right there, and clogged up the feed tube. So I had to buy new tubing and new brass inserts. I was just going to buy a new feed tube, but for the same price I could get 50 of these brass inserts and new feed tube and potentially replace it 25 times. So that's a way better deal. Got that replaced, got the printer printing. As you can see, it's printing right now. So I created both of these style mounts right here, and here one of them is, don't look at that yet, here one of them is mounted, and tell me if you can see a problem with this design. So I don't know why I decided to mount it all the way to the back when I have a mounting place right here. I could totally shorten that, and this is just not going to work at all. So went back to the drawing board and essentially redesigned the mount. This design, I actually made it to where it prints all as one solid piece. And the problem with that is on the z-axis here, the vertical, you can see all of those mesh lines. Essentially, those are all weak points, and this piece right here had already snapped off. I'm not sure if you can see that glue line, but I had already snapped this one. Oh, come on, focus camera. Yeah, already had to snap this one and glued it, so I found out that was very weak. You do not want to try and print these as one solid piece, just because of the nature of how additive printing works. So then went back to the drawing board and redesigned the mount like so. It's designed as 4 separate plates that are glued together. It is way stronger since the additive printing method isn't trying to build towers like these with no other supports. Nothing. I mean, this is just a terrible design. So redesigned it, and here it is mounted onto the gearbox. It's like I said, I moved the mounting point up here from back here. There's no reason to travel an entire distance. Also moved the this beam here, the potentiometer adjustment arm. I made that come all the way down to touch the gearbox housing, so that way there is no flex at all. It shouldn't, deform like this one does. And then because I didn't really want to do exact math and measure crap, I just made both of the bolt hole where the bolt goes, I just made that a channel so it can slide in and out of there. Same thing with the potentiometer mount side. The potentiometer can just slide in this channel here, so I can have variable distance if I want to change the rubber band that's on there. If I get a smaller one or a bigger one or whatever, I can adjust the distance that potentiometer can travel. So still got the pulleys. Decided to cut out a channel for the keyway. But in order to mount these onto the rig downstairs, I have the lever arms welded onto these shafts coming off of here. So I would have to basically disassemble a large portion of the rig to get the motors out of the rig, bring them outside. I would have to cut the lever arms off, like, grind out the welding around the lever arms, which I have done before. If you can tell, these are not the same gearbox. These are two separate gearboxes, and it's because this gearbox kind of went bad. So I bought two replacement gearboxes, but I only need to replace one at the time, so that's why I have two. So the rig downstairs also has, you know, the opposite of these two gearboxes down there. So anyway, the point of that is I can cut the lever arms off and replace them, because I've already done that with this one. Welded it onto this one, realized it was the wrong gearbox. This was the left-hand side, I needed the right-hand side, so I had to cut it and weld it onto the other gearbox. But I don't want to do that just to slide these pulleys on. That just seems really annoying and a ton of work. So what I did was I just went back into Blender and just sliced up the original big pulley into halves, and now I'm just reprinting 4 of those halves, so I can just you know, instead of removing the lever arm, cutting the lever arm off, putting that pulley on the shaft, then putting the lever arm back on, then having to protect that pulley somehow as I weld that arm back on, everything's going to get very hot, potentially melt that pulley. So I would have to protect that pulley. I don't want to do any of that crap. So I'm just printing them in half, and then I'll just super glue them together onto the shaft. Again, it doesn't take a ton of torque and tension. The point of tension in this circuitry is essentially the potentiometer. So the torque forces that this thing has to withstand is basically how hard is it to turn the potentiometer, and it's not hard to turn the potentiometer at all. So getting these printed up, and I will get them glued onto the rig, then get the new mounts put on there. I gotta get the potentiometers changed, everything. I gotta check the wiring on the rig, but I will get a video of that once I get that set up and get it working. So I'll see you guys in a little bit.